Welcome to rSlash Am I the Butthole, where OP slaps a teenager. Am I the butthole for slapping a teenager? I'm a 32-year-old woman, and I was at a water park this last weekend with my husband, who's 32, and my daughter. We were in one of the pools practicing swimming, keeping to ourselves. There was a group of teenage boys there, and while I was working with my daughter on swimming, one of them came up behind me and I felt a tug on the strings of my top, untying it. I spun around and saw this 15 to 17-year-old boy with a smirk, and I slapped him. This quickly caused a scene. The park staff got involved, as well as the boy's parents, who were livid at me. My husband and another lady saw it happen and confirmed that the boy really did grab my top. There was also a camera around the pool that kind of showed it. It wasn't the best angle. The boy's parents threatened assault charges, and I threatened sexual charges if they decided to go that way. Eventually, we were both asked to leave, and I haven't heard anything since. My husband, though, still thinks that I overreacted a bit, which I don't. Am I the butthole? This is sexual assault. Can 15-year-old boys sexually assault someone? Yes. Can a 15-year-old sexually assault a 32-year-old? Yes. Is slapping an appropriate response to being sexually harassed? Definitely yes. I mean, yeah, in general, you shouldn't be slapping teenagers, but when they're ripping your clothes off in public, hey, I think that warrants some degree of self-defense. I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving the teenage boy and his parents 3 out of 5 buttholes. I'm also giving your husband 2 out of 5 buttholes because some guy sexually assaulted his wife and he's like, well, boys will be boys. Am I the butthole for leaving my sister's wedding early after her maid of honor humiliated me in her speech? I, a 27-year-old woman, was a bridesmaid at my older sister's wedding last week. The wedding was beautiful and everything seemed perfect until the reception. During the reception, the maid of honor, who's been my sister's best friend since childhood, gave her speech. It was emotional and all, but then she made a joke about how I was the family screw-up who finally managed to do something right by not messing up my bridesmaid duties. Everyone laughed, but I didn't find it funny. For context, I've had a rough few years. I struggled with my mental health and I dropped out of college for a while. I've since gotten my life back on track, but it's still a sensitive topic for me. Hearing that joke in front of all of our friends and family wasn't funny at all. My sister's best friend and I never really got along, but still, I never expected something like this from her. Especially since the day wasn't about me at all, so why bring me up in the speech? I tried to stay composed, but I felt the tears coming, so I quietly left the reception and went outside to collect myself. My sister followed me out and asked what was wrong. When I told her, she said that it was just a joke and that she meant nothing bad. I tried to go back inside, but I just couldn't, and I ended up leaving the wedding early. My parents understand why I was upset, but my sister is angry with me. I do feel terrible for leaving, but I also feel like I had the right to feel hurt and humiliated. Also, in an edit, OP clarifies, someone asked me if my sister's best friend and I argued before or if I ever gave her a reason to do this. My sister's best friend and I never made it past hello. She told me before a few years ago that, in general, she doesn't feel comfortable around someone struggling mentally because God only knows what they're capable of. Ever since she said this, I just try to avoid her. Yeah, OP, the bridesmaid sucks and your sister sucks too. I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving the others 1.5 out of 5 buttholes. It's super easy to give a wedding speech that doesn't involve trashing on the guests. Am I the butthole for refusing to give up my seat for a pregnant woman on a 12-hour flight? I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I recently took a 12-hour flight from New York City to Hawaii. I had paid months in advance for a comfort seat with extra room, which cost me about $200 plus extra points. Before takeoff, a visibly pregnant woman was walking up and down towards the front of the plane. Her and her flight attendant look around for a moment, talk a bit, and then the lady approached me asking if I'd be willing to switch seats with her due to her condition. I politely declined. I explained that I had specifically booked this seat because I'm pretty tall, 6'4", and that I need the extra comfort and space. The attendant seemed to understand and went to ask other passengers near me, but no one volunteered. I felt like I was the only one giving her any attention. The pregnant lady then told me that I wouldn't understand what it feels like to be a woman carrying a baby in this summer heat, got upset, and eventually had to return to her seat in the back. Throughout the flight, I felt awkward passing by her every time on the way to the bathroom. When I landed, I couldn't help but feel guilty. I'm a young man without the burden of carrying a child in me, and I totally could have sacrificed a bit. And I wondered if I was wrong to prioritize my own comfort over someone who might have needed it more. So, am I the butthole? OP, I can understand why you feel bad because you seem to be a person with empathy, but let's be real. If the pregnant lady wanted a more comfortable seat, she should have paid for it. Not expect other people to pay for it and then give it to her because she's pregnant. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. And the lady gets 2 out of 5 buttholes. 1 for each butthole in her body right now. Well, I kind of had to make that joke. More realistically, I give her probably 0.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for suspecting that my wife is doing something awful at her friend's Bachelorette week in Mexico? She spent virtually 0 money and took no pictures. My wife went to Mexico last week for a friend's bachelorette party, and aside from the plane ticket, the hotel, and the first days of food and drinks, she didn't spend a penny all week. I mean, on the credit card, it's clear as day that on Monday, up until about 9 p.m., she was buying dinner, buying stuff at the hotel shop, drinks at the bar, souvenirs, and then at 9 p.m., she didn't spend another cent the entire week, until she was at her layover airport in Dallas. She says it's because her friend took over and paid for everything. I guess that's plausible, but it still gives me a funny feeling. What's worse is that my wife is a person who posts her entire life on Instagram and TikTok. But if she does anything from get a latte to picking the kids up at school, she'll post it either as a picture or as a story. The last thing she posted on TikTok was the trend of people jumping into their vacation from the airport, and after that, her social media went blank. I was kind of keeping an eye on it because I was excited for her to go on the trip. And again, I guess it's plausible that she really didn't post, but it gives me a funny feeling. When she got home, I said that I can't wait to see all the pictures she took. And she really blew me off and said that she just didn't feel like taking pictures that week. She's also been incredibly distant, and last night she said she just felt like sleeping on the couch because the AC hits better. Which, yeah, is 100% true. But I swear I heard her talking on the phone in the middle of the night. When I got up to check on her, I accidentally tripped over the dog and made a huge racket, so when I got downstairs, she appeared to be asleep. I brought all this up this morning and said that I'm not accusing her of anything, but all this put together is making me feel uneasy. I wasn't trying to bait her or fight with her, just get my feelings on the table. She said that I'm a major effing butthole for bringing this up on her first day back at work. I said that I wasn't trying to pry, just communicating with her. And she said, "Your communication is prying, and I'm not discussing this with you ever again." She then took the kids to summer camp and left. Then, beneath that, OP posts an update, and gosh, do I even need to read it? We all know what's gonna happen here. Yep, she cheated. My sister was able to get lots of info from the real estate guy, and my wife denied it at first, but then admitted to it. So I realized that her text probably synced to her iPad, so I just checked. It took me a while to figure out the passcode, but eventually I did. There was an iMessage at 9:15 the night that she got to the resort from a number with no contact info. It said, "Okay, I'll meet you in the lobby. Is the app you said to use called Signal?" I looked up the app Signal, and it's kind of like WhatsApp. This iPad doesn't have Signal on it. I was confused who the real estate guy was, so I dug through OP's comments, and it turns out OP was able to get a lot of info from some guy who apparently went on the trip, and OP was able to get this guy's number from his wife's iPad. Well, I'm glad at least that OP was able to figure out what's going on here, because this was just a sea of red flags. My wife and I literally don't go through a single day without talking to each other about what our day was like, so I can't imagine going on a week-long vacation and then being like, I don't want to talk about it. Am I the butthole for disinviting a friend from an event after she gave my ticket to her sister? Back when the Eras tour tickets were released, my friend Sadie said that she would grab us tickets and I'd pay her back. We made concrete plans, and I was excited. I've been a Swiftie for years, but I haven't seen her live. I had to sell my Rep Stadium Tour tickets back in the 2010s because my mom was dying, and I needed the money to help pay medical bills. So for this tour, I booked the hotel. This past weekend, I was having a little get-together for a bunch of friends, and Sadie was of course invited. At some point, she pulled me aside and told me that she had news, that she's leaving in September. I was heartbroken. We've been friends for years, and I love spending time with her. I got weepy and hugged her a bunch and said that we needed to get all of our thrifting trips in over the summer and hang out as much as we could. Then she broke the news that as a way to bond with her sister before she left, she was going to be taking her to the Eras Tour instead. I didn't know how to react. She stood in front of me and Venmo'd me my payment back. She was like, "I know you'd understand." I said that this was a sneaky move and honestly really awful of her, and I don't understand how or why she would do that to me. She got defensive and said that they were under her name and that she didn't owe me anything. I was like, yeah, they're your tickets, so legally you can do whatever you want. But this is still a really awful and sneaky thing to do to your friend, knowing that there's no way that I'll ever be able to get my own tickets at this point. She just kinda shrugged and said, "Sorry, but I figured you'd understand." I asked her to leave and told her to please not come back for the 4th of July party next week. I said I needed to process this and that I'm really disappointed with her and how she treated me. This is a girl that I've consoled through breakups, job losses, pet losses, etc. She looked shocked and asked if I was serious. She ended up stomping off and leaving, and texted me later to tell me that she's around if I want to apologize for making her feel bad about taking her sister on a bonding trip. I'm honestly heartbroken that I'm going to be watching the show on a grainy live stream instead of being there in the stadium with everyone. I was looking forward to this so much. I checked the resale sites and I had a sad little cry about it. I'm wondering if I'm completely wrong to have just uninvited her. Is that too far? Yo, OP, she straight up stole your tickets, and in my opinion, she's also on the hook for the money that you spent on the hotel. Yeah, she ordered and paid for the tickets, but the second that you paid her for your ticket, that ticket became yours, in my opinion. So, OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. Your scummy friend gets 2 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for refusing to push my obese cousin around in a wheelchair for a day? My cousin is approaching 600 pounds and requires a mobility scooter because walking even short distances is very painful for her. In July, she has an out-of-state wedding to attend, and I was asked to taxi her to and from the event, as I'm not currently employed, so my calendar is open. Unfortunately, my car will not carry a mobility scooter, so my cousin will be required to use a wheelchair. The problem is that this event is being held in a public park. I can barely push her wheelchair on a paved surface, let alone across grass and dirt. I tried contacting a couple of rental agencies in the area, but they wouldn't lease scooters in this case because of the off-road use. My aunt and uncle have also declined to loan me their truck, which is how my cousin normally gets around, because I have a pretty bad driving history. I did look into renting a vehicle that could carry the scooter, but my cousin can't afford to pay for that, and obviously, with me being jobless, I can't either. The distance from the parking to the event is about 40 yards, which my cousin can't handle walking. The best solution anyone's come up with is that the party has a flatbed that they're using to tote supplies from the cars. But my cousin says that she would feel humiliated having to be rolled in like that. My cousin is furious with me, saying that I'm shaming her by saying that I can't push her. But I feel that it's the honest truth. Like 100%, the thin wheels of the wheelchair are gonna dig into the ground, and I'm not strong enough to handle that. My cousin has done a lot for me in the past year, so I do feel bad saying no, but I feel like I've looked into every option at this point. Am I the butthole for not being willing to just go and give it the college try? Wait, hold on, OP. You mentioned the truck that she usually gets around on is owned by your uncle and your aunt, so presumably her parents, right? Why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they helping her? Why does this fall on you? Just because you don't have a job? Oh, wait. What does not having a job have to do with wheeling someone in a wheelchair 45 yards across a park? Can't people with a job also do that? Can't your aunt and uncle do that? I just don't understand why this has fallen on your shoulders, OP. And, even if this was your responsibility, you're right. It's just a practicality issue because physics are physics. If you're not strong enough to push her, then I don't really know what you're supposed to do here. I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I guess I'm giving your cousin and her parents 1.5 out of 5 buttholes. It's a little bit unclear why she's mad at you exactly, and it's also unclear why your aunt and uncle don't help. Oh, maybe they're not invited to the wedding? I don't really know. It's kind of fuzzy. Am I the butthole for selling my late wife's cake recipe to a bakery? My late wife passed away 3 years ago. Our 2 kids were in their late 20s at the time. It's been a hard few years, and it's even harder now that I live alone. My wife had a lovely dark chocolate cherry cake. It was my favorite thing that she would make, and I always requested it for Father's Day. I am a terrible baker, and I've tried to remake it from her notes. The notes aren't very clear, and it never turns out correct. It's depressing spending so much time and it being wrong. I've asked my 2 kids to try to make it, but they've refused to. I was told that they will not figure out the recipe and to stop asking. I went to a local bakery and asked for them to figure it out. They agreed, as long as I gave them permission to sell the cake in the store. It didn't take them long to figure it out, and it's almost exactly the same to my wife's. I bought one for Father's Day, and my kids were happy about the cake, until I told them that the bakery made it. They're pissed that I would sell their mother's recipe to a bakery. This whole week, they've been telling me that I'm a jerk for this, and I'm wondering if I really am a jerk. I just wanted to eat her cake again. All right, hold on. What exactly do your kids want here? Because you can't cook it, and they can't cook it. So what exactly is the purpose of holding on to a cake recipe that no one can make? At least by giving it to the bakery, OP and other people who like cherry chocolate cake can enjoy it. I am completely on your side, OP. From a personal perspective, I would pay literally like $100 per egg if someone could perfectly replicate my deceased grandmother's deviled eggs. Ever since she's passed away, no deviled egg has quite been the same. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your kids 1 out of 5 butthole. I don't even understand what they're mad about.
That was rSlash Am I the Butthole? And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.